Welcome back. I don't know about you, but after talking about all this, I'm looking over my shoulder a little more than usual.
Yeah.
We talked about the law and how rights are violated, but what about the impact on the victims? The trauma of it all?
That's something we don't talk about enough. The psychological effects of being abducted can be really serious even after someone is safe.
So even if someone gets away or is rescued, the mental and emotional scars are still there.
Exactly. It can cause PTSD, anxiety, depression, and make it hard to trust people. Imagine living with that fear all the time, even after the danger is gone.
It's like the experience changes how you see the world, how you interact with everyone. And it's not just the victims who are affected, right? Their families must go through something similar.
Absolutely. The families and loved ones of abducted people suffer too. The worry not knowing if they're okay, the fear, it can really hurt their sense of security and well-being. Imagine trying to live your life knowing someone you love could be in danger and you can't do anything about it.
It's heartbreaking.
Mm.
Are there any resources or support systems for victims and their families to help them deal with this kind of trauma?
Luckily, yes. There are organizations like the Kenya Red Cross Society and mental health NGOs that offer counseling and support groups specifically for trauma victims and families. These resources can be so important for healing.
It's good to know. It's nice to know there's help out there for people going through something this awful.
Hey.
But let's change gears a bit and talk about the media's role in all of this. How do they influence how we think about abductions? What kind of responsibility do they have when they report on these sensitive cases?
The media has so much power to shape how we see things. Think about it. You're scrolling through your newsfeed and you see a headline about another abduction. It grabs your attention right away. Do you feel scared, angry, maybe helpless? That's the media influencing how we see these events.
That's a really good point. They have a huge platform, and how they use it matters.
It does. When it comes to abductions, responsible reporting is so important. If they sensationalize these cases or use the victims' stories for shock value, it can make their trauma worse and cause unnecessary fear in the community.
It's like they have to find a balance between informing the public and protecting the people involved.
Yeah.
So how can our listeners know what to believe? How can they tell what's real and what's not, especially with such a sensitive topic?
You have to be a smart consumer of information. Look for media outlets that focus on facts and avoid exaggerating things. They should present a balanced view with different perspectives. Be careful of sources that rely on emotions or only show one side of the story.
So we have to be our own fact checkers and think critically about what we see and hear. And it makes you wonder, what happens if things don't change? What are the long-term consequences if these abductions keep happening and we don't do something about it?
That's the question we have to ask ourselves. The consequences could be really bad, not just for individuals, but for all of Kenya. If people are always scared of being abducted, it makes them lose trust in the government and the law. It hurts our democracy and creates fear and uncertainty.
It's like this feeling of paranoia where people are afraid to say anything or challenge authority.
Exactly. And that can hurt our democracy, our economy, and our society. We could see less investment, less tourism, and a lower quality of life for everyone. It affects us all.
So it's about more than just personal safety. It's about the whole country. What can we do to make things better? What can we do to create a safer future?
It's a tough issue that needs a lot of different solutions. We need the government to make changes, and we need people to take action.
Okay, let's break that down. What kind of changes do we need from the government?
First, we have to make our law enforcement agencies stronger. And that doesn't just mean giving them more money. It means making sure they're transparent and accountable. We have to deal with corruption in the police force.
So no more ignoring the bad cops, the ones who abuse their power.
Exactly. We need better training, better oversight, and real punishments for officers who violate human rights. If someone is abusing their authority, they need to be held responsible no matter what.
That makes sense. But what about the justice system itself? What needs to change there to make sure victims get justice?
We need big changes in the courts to make sure the justice system is fair and efficient. Right now, there are way too many cases waiting to be heard, which means things can take years. That's not justice for anyone.
It's like the system is failing everyone when things move that slowly.
It is. We also need to make sure victims can get legal help so they understand how the legal system works. And we need better protection for witnesses so they feel safe coming forward with information. If we don't have witnesses, it's almost impossible to prove anything and hold criminals accountable.
Those are all important changes. But it seems like we need to do more than that, right? We need to address the root causes of these abductions. I mean, there must be bigger societal issues at play.
Absolutely. We can't just focus on what we see on the surface. We have to get to the root of the problem. And a lot of times that root is Poverty, inequality, and lack of opportunity. When people feel like society doesn't care about them, when they have no hope for the future, they're more likely to turn to crime, even something as serious as abduction.
It's like if the system isn't working for you, why should you follow the rules?
Exactly. So we need to invest in education, create jobs, and support programs that help communities. When you give people a way to improve their lives, when you give them power to build a better future, it makes them less likely to commit crimes.
It's about showing people they matter, that their lives are important.
Exactly. And besides these economic and social changes, we need to create a culture where people value peace and respect human rights. We need public awareness campaigns, education programs in schools, and conversations in our communities to help people understand and care about each other.
So we need to approach this from all sides, legal, social, and cultural. But even if the government does everything right, it still feels like we as individuals have a role to play.
You're absolutely right. Grassroots movements and people getting involved are so important for change to happen. We can't just wait for the government to fix everything we have to be part of making the kind of society we want.
Okay, so what can our listeners do? How can they get involved and make a difference and be part of the solution?
There are so many ways to help. Supporting organizations like the Missing Voices Coalition is a great place to start. They're doing amazing work helping victims and pushing for changes.
So donating to them, volunteering, spreading the word about their work, it all makes a difference.
Exactly. And we can all become more informed and involved citizens. Stay up to date on what's happening,
Right.
learn about your rights, talk to your family and friends, share information online, and contact your representatives. Don't underestimate what you can do. Even small actions can make a difference.
It's a good reminder that we can do something. We're not powerless against this problem.
Exactly. We have the power to change things, but we have to stay informed, stay involved, and most importantly, stay hopeful.
Hope is so powerful. It's
Right.
what drives us to make things better. Before we move on to possible solutions in part 3, is there anything else you'd like to add? Any final thoughts?
Yes, I want to emphasize that even though this is a serious problem, we can't give up hope or be afraid. We can overcome these challenges, but it takes all of us working together, staying informed, and staying alert.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into abductions in Kenya. We've talked about the laws, the psychology, the media, and the effects on society. But now let's get to solutions. What can we actually do to make Kenya safer for everyone?
That's what we all want to know, and there's no easy answer. It's going to take a lot of changes, both from the government and from all of us.
Okay, so let's start with the top. What needs to happen with the government and big institutions?
One big thing is making our law enforcement better, not just giving them more money, but making sure they're honest and accountable. We need to get rid of corruption in the police.
So no more looking the other way when cops do bad things.
Right. We need better training, more people watching what they do, and real punishments for officers who violate human rights. If someone is abusing their power, they have to be held responsible, period.
Makes sense.
Hmm.
What about the justice system? How can we make sure victims actually get justice?
We need to change the courts to make them fair and efficient. Right now, there are so many cases waiting to be heard that things take years and years.
Yeah, that's not fair to anyone.
No, it's not. We also need to help victims get legal help so they understand what's going on, and we need to protect witnesses better so they feel safe telling what they know. If people are afraid to come forward, it's hard to prove anything and hold the criminals accountable.
I see. All those changes would be huge.
Hmm.
But shouldn't we go even deeper, like address the reasons why these abductions happen in the first place?
Absolutely. We can't just fix the problems we see. We have to get to the root of it. And a lot of times that root is things like poverty, inequality, and not having opportunities. When people feel hopeless and like they don't have a chance, they're more likely to turn to crime, even something as bad as abduction.
It's like they think if the system isn't helping them, why should they follow the rules?
Exactly. So we need to invest in education, create jobs, and support programs that help communities. If you give people a chance to have a better life, if you empower them to build a good future, they're less likely to commit crimes.
So we need to show people they matter, that their lives are valuable.
Right. And besides these changes to the economy and society, we need to build a culture that values peace and respects human rights. We need to talk about these things in schools and communities and do public awareness campaigns.
So we need to tackle this from all angles, legal, social, cultural rights. But even if the government does all that, it still feels like there's something we can do as individuals.
Absolutely. Grassroots movements and people getting involved are really important. We can't just sit around and wait for the government to fix everything. We need to be part of creating the change we want to see.
So what can our listeners do? How can they be part of the solution?
There are a lot of ways to help. Supporting organizations like the Missing Voices Coalition is a great start. They're doing amazing work helping victims and fighting for policy changes.
So donating, volunteering, spreading the word about them, that all helps.
Yeah. And beyond that, we can all be better citizens. Stay informed about what's happening, learn about your rights, talk to your friends and family, share information online, and contact your representatives. Don't think your voice doesn't matter. Every little bit counts.
It's a reminder that we can do something. We're not powerless.
Exactly. We can make a difference, but we have to stay informed, stay involved, and most importantly, stay hopeful.
Hope is so important. It's what keeps us going. Well, this brings us to the end of our deep dive into abductions in Kenya. I know it's been a tough topic, but I hope you learned something new and that you feel like you can make a difference. We can't ignore these problems. We have to face them head-on, demand better, and work together to build a safer future for everyone.
I agree. Knowledge is power, and by working together, we can make things better.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay hopeful.